Welcome to Jackson, Tennessee. We're right in the heart of West Tennessee, about 70 miles east of Memphis and 130 miles or so southwest of Nashville. Today, Jackson is home to about 68,000 people, making it the largest city in Madison County and the second largest city in all of West Tennessee. But to really understand Jackson, we're going to have to peel back the layers of history that have shaped this city. Long before Jackson became a city, this land belonged to the Chickasaw people. They lived along the forked Deer River, hunting, farming, and having thriving villages. By the early 1800s, however, European American settlers began pushing westward, arriving here from Virginia, Kentucky, and the Carolinas. Under treaties backed by the Indian Removal Act of 1830, the Chickasaw were forced from their homeland, opening the way for settlers to stake out farms and communities. The first settlement here was called Alexandria, but in 1822 it was renamed Jackson, honoring General Andrew Jackson, the hero of the War of 1812, who later became the 7th President of the United States. Just 1 year earlier, in 1821, the Tennessee legislature had passed an act establishing Jackson as the seat of justice for the region. 50 acres of land were deeded over to build a courthouse and town square, and from there, Jackson quickly became the political and economic center of Madison County. In its early years, Jackson thrived as an agricultural market town. Cotton was king here. Planters grew it in vast quantities, and enslaved African Americans provided the labor that fueled the region's economy. Jackson became the place where farmers brought their cotton to sell and trade, and where merchants supplied everything from tools and cloth to luxury goods. But perhaps the most important turning point in Jackson's growth came with the railroad. The first tracks reached Jackson in 1851, and over the next few decades, the city became a true crossroads of the South. By the late 1800s, 4 major railroads crisscrossed here, connecting Jackson north to Kentucky, south to Mississippi, and east and west to markets across the country. The town echoed with the sound of steam whistles, and the skyline filled with smoke from locomotives. By the 1960s, Jackson was served by 15 passenger trains a day, an incredible number for a city its size. The railroad not only brought commerce, but also workers, hotels, restaurants, and a sense of energy that transformed Jackson into a bustling hub. Of course, history hasn't always been peaceful here. During the Civil War, Jackson saw its share of action. In December of 1862, Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest led a cavalry raid into West Tennessee, targeting the vital rail lines that ran through Jackson. Union troops stationed here braced for attack, and skirmishes broke out around the city, including near Old Salem Cemetery. Forrest's goal wasn't to capture Jackson itself, but to disrupt Union supply lines, and he succeeded, forcing General Ulysses S. Grant to shift his campaign south towards Vicksburg. For a time, Jackson was under Union control, its streets crowded with soldiers and supplies moving through town. After the war, with emancipation and new constitutional rights, Jackson's freedmen began to build schools, churches, and political organizations. They sought to take part in the civic life of the city, but they also faced fierce opposition, racial violence, and later Jim Crow laws that were designed to suppress black voices. Yet despite this, African Americans in Jackson continue to shape the city's culture, resilience, and identity. In the decades that followed, Jackson evolved again. From cotton to railroads to manufacturing, the city has continually adapted to the times. The annexation of nearby Bemis in the 1970s, the restructuring of railroads, and the rise of new industries all left their mark. So, as we begin our walking tour, remember, we're not just looking at buildings and streets. We're stepping into a place where native peoples once lived, where Civil War battles flared, where trains once thundered by the dozens each day, and where generations of people have worked, struggled, and dreamed. Right here in the center of Jackson stands the Madison County Courthouse, the heart of the city since the very beginning. Like many southern towns, Jackson was laid out with the courthouse square at its core, and everything else, businesses, homes, even the first dirt streets, spread outward from this spot. The story starts back in 1821 when the Tennessee legislature created Madison County and called for a permanent county seat. 50 acres of land were set aside for a courthouse and the square. The very first courthouse was a simple wooden structure, nothing fancy, just enough to handle the business of a frontier community. But as Jackson grew, so did the need for more sturdier buildings. By the 1830s, a brick courthouse replaced the original wood frame one, a proud symbol of Jackson's new status as the seat of justice in West Tennessee. In fact, Jackson's prominence was such that when the Tennessee Supreme Court set up regional divisions in 1834, it placed the West Tennessee Court right here. Imagine lawyers and judges traveling in by horseback, stagecoach, and later by train, bringing some of the state's biggest legal battles to this very square. But courthouses, like people, don't always survive the test of time. The early brick building eventually gave way to newer versions. Fires, which were all too common in 19th century America, struck more than once. Each time, Jackson rebuilt bigger and more ornate than before. The courthouse that we see today is the fifth one to stand here. Completed in 1937, it was built during the Great Depression with the help of the Works Progress Administration. Its style is a striking blend of classical and modern influences. For nearly a century, this courthouse has been the stage for countless trials, elections, and community events. Civil rights cases, criminal trials that made headlines, local politics, you name it, it's happened here. We're pausing here at the Madison County Courthouse because this spot once echoed with the voice of one of America's most legendary frontiersmen, Davy Crockett, or David Crockett as he likes to be called. The year was 1827. Crockett had already made a name for himself across Tennessee as a bear hunter, soldier, and colorful storyteller. But now he was chasing something bigger, a seat in the United States Congress. And like any good politician of the day, he went from courthouse square to courthouse square delivering fiery speeches to win over voters. When he arrived here in Jackson, Madison County's courthouse was the perfect stage. Picture the scene, farmers and townsfolk crowding the square, wagons parked around the edges, children perched on fence rails, and the smell of fresh dust in the air. People came not just to hear politics, but to be entertained, and nobody entertained like Davy Crockett. He wasn't a polished speaker, he didn't wear fine suits or talk like the lawyers who usually held court here. Instead, Crockett leaned on his backwoods humor and told tall tales and plain-spoken charm. He mixed in jokes about hunting bears and living off the land, then would pivot to talking about government waste, taxes, and protecting the common man. Folks laughed, clapped, and nodded along because he sounded just like one of them, and that was exactly his strength. But Crockett's time in Jackson wasn't just folksy storytelling. Standing on these courthouse steps, he made it clear that he wasn't afraid to stand up to the political establishment. He promised he'd vote his conscience even if he went against the party line. That kind of independent streak was risky in those days, but it was pure Davy Crockett. The speech here at the Madison County Courthouse helped secure his reputation in West Tennessee. Not long after, he won election to Congress, serving 3 terms, and became a national folk hero. Of course, Crockett's story didn't end here. After losing the seat in 1835, partly because he opposed Andrew Jackson's Indian Removal Act, Crockett famously declared, "You may all go to hell and I will go to Texas." And we know how that ended at the Alamo, where he became a legend. In front of us, we're looking at one of Jackson's proudest landmarks, the City Hall building. While the courthouse that we just saw across the square symbolizes law and justice, this building represents civic life, the business of running the city itself. The story of Jackson City Hall begins in the early 20th century when Jackson was no longer just a farm and railroad town. By then it had become a bustling regional hub. The leaders of the day wanted a city building that would reflect Jackson's growing importance, something that looked modern, dignified, and lasting. So, in 1925, construction began on this classical revival building that we see today. It was completed in 1927. Of course, Jackson has weathered many storms, really quite literally. In May of 2003, a devastating tornado ripped through the downtown area of Jackson, leaving heavy damage in its path. The city hall itself was scarred. There was once a clock tower that was battered by winds and had to be taken down. But just like the people of Jackson themselves, the building was repaired and restored and standing tall once again. Today, City Hall serves as the heartbeat of local government. Inside the building is the mayor's office and various city departments that continue the daily work of keeping Jackson moving forward. Across the street from us is the Ed Jones Federal Building and U.S. Courthouse. Back in the early 1930s, America was in crisis. The Great Depression had ripped through cities large and small, but in that climate, the federal government embarked on vast building projects, post offices, courthouses, and federal buildings, both to put people to work and to provide lasting civic infrastructure. It was during this era between 1932 and 1933 that this building was constructed. It was designed to serve two important federal roles. First as the U.S. Post Office for Jackson, and then second as a U.S. courthouse. Across the street from us and next to the old courthouse building that was constructed in the 1930s is a newer Jackson courthouse that was built in 1998. This building is known as the James D. Todd United States Courthouse and is named after James D. Todd, who was a native of Tennessee and served under and was nominated by President Ronald Reagan in 1985 to the U.S. District Court for Western Tennessee. In the heart of historic downtown Jackson, here on Baltimore Street, stands a building that has witnessed nearly a century of change. The building we see in front of us, the Elks Building, was constructed in 1928 and has served various purposes throughout its existence. Originally, it was the headquarters for the GM&O Railroad and the site of the Anderson-Clayton Cotton Company. Over the years, the building has been renovated and improved and modernized, and today it houses various federal offices, including the United States District Court, Social Security hearing rooms, and the state's attorney's office. Here in the heart of downtown Jackson stands a building that has witnessed nearly a century of change. The New Southern Hotel was constructed in 1927 and quickly became a cornerstone of the city's social and architectural landscape. The building was designed by architect Rupert A. Hefner, and the hotel itself was envisioned as a beacon of elegance and modernity. Its Renaissance Revival architecture with those terracotta details and arched windows set it apart from other buildings in the era. Inside, guests were greeted by a lobby adorned with leather brown grid oak paneling and very beautiful plaster ceilings. From its opening until well into the 1970s, the New Southern Hotel was more than just a place to stay. It was the center of social life in Jackson. The hotel hosted meetings, fundraisers, weddings, and major events. But as the years passed, the hotel's role evolved. In 1970, it closed as a hotel and was converted into office spaces, though this proved to be unsuccessful. In 1976, the building underwent major renovations to transform the upper floors into a residential center for senior citizens. Today, the hotel continues to be used as apartment buildings, and it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places. We're now heading down East Main in what's known as the East Main Historic District. This is a district with many commercial-style buildings, as well as a little bit later on some homes, that reflect what building styles were like in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Here in downtown Jackson, Tennessee, stands a testament to faith, resilience, and community, which is that building in front of us, St. Luke's Episcopal Church. Established in 1832, it was the first Episcopal congregation founded in West Tennessee, a milestone achieved through the determination of Mrs. Mary Hayes Willis Gloucester. At the age of 52, she journeyed on horseback to Nashville to request Bishop James H. Otey to bring the Episcopal Church to this region. Her efforts led to the formation of 5 congregations that year, with St. Luke's being the first in July of 1832. The church's current Gothic Revival building was built in 1845, though it was only partially completed that year. It was consecrated by Bishop Otey himself in 1853. First United Methodist Church was founded in 1826 by the Reverend Thomas Neely. It holds the distinction of being the very first Methodist congregation in West Tennessee. The congregation's first meeting house of worship was constructed in 1831 on the southeast corner of Church and Chester Streets. This modest structure served as a spiritual home for the growing Methodist community. By 1851, the church had outgrown its original building and erected a new building at that same location. During the Civil War, Union forces utilized the 1851 sanctuary as a hospital and stable, underscoring the church's role in the broader historical context of the era. In 1870, First Methodist Church played a pivotal role in organizing the Colored Methodist Episcopal Church, now known as the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. This act of inclusivity and outreach highlighted the congregation's commitment to unity and service across racial lines. The current sanctuary that we see today was formally opened in 1914. Here at the heart, in the heart of Jackson, stands a testament to the city's rich history and vibrant cultural life. Today, this building houses the Ned R. McWhirter West Tennessee Cultural Arts Center, affectionately known as the Ned, and to make it just a bit shorter. It also serves as the home of the Jackson Theater Guild. The building that we see right in front of us originally was Jackson's City Hall and had been a cornerstone of civic life for decades. In 2001, the building underwent a significant transformation to become the Ned, and it now boasts a 420-seat theater equipped with advanced lighting and sound systems, making it a great venue for a variety of performances. Within this historic building resides the Jackson Theater Guild, the city's oldest community theater that was established way back in 1965. In 1938, a sleek Art Deco structure rose here on East Main Street, which became a gateway for travelers and a symbol of the city's mid-century optimism. Designed by architect Nolan Van Powell and built by the Hubert Owen Construction Company, this Greyhound bus station was a part of a national expansion that transformed American transportation. Its streamlined curves, neon-lit marquee, and glass block facade made it a rare jewel in Jackson's architectural landscape. For decades, it served as a bustling transit point connecting Jackson to the broader world. Inside, segregated waiting areas reflected the painful realities of the Jim Crow era, but the station remained a vital link for all that passed through it. Even as the bus industry evolved, the station stood as a testament to a bygone era of travel. By 2018, the station closed its doors, but reopened back up again as a well-known restaurant in the downtown area. Nestled here in the downtown area shows another form of architecture. In fact, this home that was constructed in 1900 has witnessed many centuries of changes. It was originally built as a single-family residence, but has been converted into multi-family housing today. The Anise building that we see in front of us was constructed in 1905 and was originally a sanctuary for a local church. Over the years, it's gone through several transformations, and today it is now a very well-known event center for weddings and community gatherings. The building in front of us has witnessed over a century of change and transformation. This historic building began its journey as the Jackson Free Library, funded by philanthropist Andrew Carnegie. It was built in 1903 and was the very first public library in Jackson and one of the first Carnegie libraries in the entire state of Tennessee. The Jackson Free Library was constructed in the Beaux Arts style, and at one time when it opened, or when it very first opened, it had about 25,000 books, a children's reading room, a museum, magazines, newspapers, and much more. But despite its grandeur, the library was initially segregated. While white residents had full access to the library resources, black residents were allowed to check out books but were not permitted to stay inside and read them. This arrangement, though, was unusual for the time, as many southern cities totally prohibited black residents from using public libraries altogether. In 1968, a new library building was built, and the Jackson Free Library was left vacant. Over the years, the building unfortunately had fallen into disrepair, but in the 1980s, the Tennessee Historical Commission funded a restoration project, and in 1988, the building reopened as the Carnegie Center for Arts and History. Today, the Carnegie Center for Arts and History serves as a vibrant cultural hub. It houses the Tennessee Legends of Music Museum, which celebrates Jackson's rich musical heritage. The museum features exhibits on legendary musicians such as Carl Perkins, known as the father of Rockabilly, which we're going to learn about here in just a few minutes, as well as Sonny Boy Williamson, a pioneer of the blues. In the early 1950s, somewhere between the cotton fields of the American South and the honky-tonks of Tennessee, a new sound was quietly taking shape. It was wild, raw, and electrifying, a fusion of country music, then called hillbilly music, and the pulsating rhythm of rhythm and blues. People began to call it rockabilly, a form of words that put together the words rock for rock music and hillbilly. The music was all about energy, upright bass thumping, twangy electric guitars, pounding drums, and vocals that could both croon and howl. It was dance music, rebellious music, and heartfelt music all at once. In a time when radio and jukeboxes were king, rockabilly was the heartbeat of teenagers looking for something different from their parents' old country tunes or jazz standards. Here in the town of Jackson, Tennessee, Carl Perkins was growing up surrounded by his bubbling musical mix. Born in 1932, Carl was the youngest of 7 children. Life on a cotton farm wasn't easy, but it came with a soundtrack, the blues, gospel, and country tunes drifting across the fields. By his teens, Carl was strumming a guitar, writing songs, and performing in local clubs. In 1954, Carl wrote a song that would change his life and the world of music forever, Blue Suede Shoes. The song's infectious rhythm, catchy lyrics, and that unmistakable rockabilly guitar twang made it an instant hit. It was playful, rebellious, and entirely new. Even Elvis Presley famously covered the song, but it was Carl Perkins' recording that captured the raw spark of rockabilly. Carl Perkins wasn't alone, though, in pioneering rockabilly. Artists like Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Johnny Cash were part of the same Sun record scenes in Memphis, Tennessee. Together, they brought Southern sounds into living rooms across America, turning the music of the South into the global phenomenon we now call rock and roll. Perkins' style was distinct, a mix of twang, bass, heartfelt storytelling, and so on. Songs like Matchbox and Honey Don't captured everyday struggles and joys with an energy that made people jump out of their chairs. He was known as the King of Rockabilly, and rightfully so. He influenced countless musicians from the Beatles to contemporary rock artists. I hope you've enjoyed this Wandering Walks of Wonder tour here in downtown Jackson, Tennessee. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you on our next Wandering Walks of Wonder adventure. Take care now. Bye-bye.